Hi, today we have Ani Chozdum with us. Hi, how are you doing?
I'm good, thank you.
Okay, and she used to work with children earlier, and now she's a part of ordained Sangha and learning Tibetan and Buddhist philosophy. Tell us about your experience working with children.
Okay, so working with children, it's not an easy job, but it's very rewarding. So I used to work with mainly babies, so I worked with children from 6 months old to about 2 years old. And yeah, so what I used to do was, in Australia we have this thing where parents will go to work and they drop their children off at childcare, and so then I would be someone who would look after their children, and we would provide educational programs, we would have activities planned and do things with them. But it's very child driven, so
So lots of joy is involved into that job?
Yeah, so especially with the babies, you're feeding them, giving them their food, making bottles, changing their nappies, playing with them, and also setting up the environment so that they can explore and be able to learn and explore their curiosities about things that they want to.
So lots of joy is involved into that job. And as a practitioner of Buddhism, there are four immeasurable where we're talking about joy and how you're perceiving, like you have certain experience working with children and now you're practicing Buddhism. So how you're perceiving the term joy as a practitioner?
So I actually was ordained before I started working in childcare, so also definitely working with children is a good opportunity to practice the four measurables. And so my understanding of joy, the joyous effort, or joy, I don't know, I haven't really thought much about it, but I mean, working with children, you do have to persevere a lot, and sometimes you get frustrated. But I definitely, would try and do the best that I can to offer the most care and support to the children so that they could explore what they wanted to, but also in a safe way so that they're not.
So you applied the thing you are learning as a or remember the thing you have learned, you apply that thing in your job at the same time.
Yes.
And you cultivate that feeling right at the same time. But if you try to explain someone to a lay person, what do you understand by the joy in terms of Buddhism? That I would like to know more.
Okay. Well, there's, you might have heard that little prayer that you say with the four immeasurables, and so the immeasurable joy is the one wanting sentient beings to have happiness and to never be separated from that happiness. There are also some things that you just sort of do in your daily life that also encompass that immeasurable anyway, so sometimes it just comes a bit naturally. But then when you study it in Buddhism, you might be thinking about it more in the forefront of your mind. So immeasurable joy. Yeah, and
no, don't think about as immeasurable joy, just joy. If you heard the term joy, what comes to your mind first? Like how you define, not now forget about the Buddhism or forget about this so-called definition you know so far. When you heard the term joy, what comes to your mind first?
Well, usually, when I think of joy, the first thing I think of is being happy and is enjoying yourself when you're doing something, so having fun while you're doing something.
So now what we are going to do, we'll try to draw something out of it, whatever comes to our mind, and then we'll discuss something and we will add more and more, and let's see where it's going.
Okay.
So first, I would like to start with the thing, only the term joy, like first thing comes to your mind. And I can tell when I say joy, the thing I have enjoyed in my life that comes to my mind. I love to watch cartoon.
Okay.
And I remember as a kid I loved certain cartoon like Winnie the Pooh, Mickey Mouse. So for me, when I say joy, all those things comes to my mind very automatically on teddy bear, a fluffy teddy bear,
Yeah.
because I love to hug teddy bear.
Yeah.
So when I hear the term joy, all those sweet memories comes to my mind. So probably I'll draw something like this. Whatever comes to your mind. I'm just sharing my side of story.
Yeah.
For me, joy is again happiness, and watching cartoon still gives me a lot of happiness. And that's so sweet. There is nothing negative in cartoon. That's what I felt. I mean, there is, but as a kid, you fail to perceive all those things. For you, it's just such sweet things.
Yeah.
Okay. So okay, let's try something. Okay, can you show to the camera what you made? I'm showing. And now please describe like what have you made and what you want to represent by it.
Okay. So when I think of joy, I actually just imagine like a feeling. I don't necessarily have. I mean, I have memories that come as well, but more so sort of this sort of bubbly, peaceful, kind of happy, warm feeling. So I've drawn sort of like little suns floating, and then just like a little breeze coming through because it sort of feels gentle and sort of like a happy place that you're happy to rest in that feeling of joy.
Okay.
So that's sort of what I've drawn.
So sometimes I'm trying to understand. Sometimes being in such place gives you lots of joy. Is that so?
Yeah, definitely. For me, I love bushwalking. In Australia, we call it bushwalking when you go out into the forest, or hiking also, and especially the rainforest. I love the rainforest. That's definitely a happy place for me. Yeah.
And is that like when you are going alone or with your family or friends, something, all those memory, how do you connect all those memory? Like you feel happier when, I mean, more joyful when you're with your friends or family, or you're by your own self, like completely immersing in nature and having these feelings? How does it come to you?
I think they're two different things that both have joy for me. Like I enjoy doing things by myself, and I also enjoy doing things with people. I am definitely very much a people person, so I love spending time with others.
Okay, I'm just showing what I have made. I made a teddy bear, and it's me, kind of a little girl I made. And I remember I received a teddy bear as a gift from my friend, but by that time I was not a kid anymore. I was a grown-up lady. But that gave me lots of joy. I remember as a birthday gift I received it, and I was just wishing. I was very happy and joyous, but at the same time I wish I could have it as a kid. So, but whenever I embrace this big teddy bear, I always feel myself like I'm just a kid, and I love to play with a teddy bear. That's what comes to my mind. And when I talk about joy, suddenly I don't know, the balloon comes to my mind, because balloon is another thing I like to play with. So I create 3 balloons randomly because it comes to my mind. So for me, that's the interpretation of joy. Probably it's more like when we're studying Buddhism, it's more than this all those memories or all these feelings connected to us. It's more than that. But when I just heard a term like joy, all the small things come to my mind. So I try to paint that. And another thing I would like to ask you, when you experience something, joy in your life, right? But have you tried like others to give that same feelings? And if you're trying, how you're trying, or what would be your message?
In my personal experience and what I do is, trying to find like the silver lining of a situation, or just sort of being you and being open-minded, definitely, to what people are talking about, and allowing people time to talk about things. And yeah, I think just sort of giving others the space that they require sometimes, that also can bring. You never know what someone's going to talk about when you give them the space for something, and then something comes out, and then you just, I don't know, sometimes that can be really joyful, just giving people the space and time that they need, whether you're sitting with them or, you know, sometimes when you're having a conversation, you don't always have to be talking every moment. Sometimes there's a moment where you both stare off and just sort of enjoy the environment around you. But it's also nice, to just sort of sit in people's company as well. So sometimes people just want to be near someone, and they don't necessarily want to speak or do anything, and that can be helpful for people.
Yeah, that's so true. And I can recall my encounter with you. I mean, when I first time met you, it's not that we started talking, but eventually we started talking, and somehow feel it's very soothing for me. It was quite soothing experience because there was no pressure that I have to talk, and there was nothing. It was never like that I will hide something or I will overshare something. It was very spontaneous. So this openness somehow helped me to connect with you more and more, and that I really admire a lot because it was never a burden for me. Sometimes when we have some kind of burden, we feel that we can't grow there. With burden, we can't grow. And when it's open and you have space, there are chances that you can grow and grow more. And that also gives you lots of joy time to time.
Yeah, I don't know, I think with joy, there's definitely like different sort of forms that it manifests. Sometimes, you know, sometimes you have a hard situation, and then on the other side you find the joy of having gone through that situation and then figuring out how to sort of work it out. Yeah,
that's true. That sometimes gives you like, sometimes when you face the hardship, you feel how I'm gonna bear this. Sometimes it's too much for us. We feel suffocated because of this pain, these sufferings. But again, you are right that when we have gone through it, I mean, we have been past it, we feel okay. There is again another kind of joy to get over of this hardship, difficult situation. Yeah, that is also the good. And how Buddhism helps you to tackle this kind of situation?
It's very helpful. I would recommend. No, it's,
that's the reason I'm asking you.
I was thinking, Buddhism, it's definitely helped me a lot in life as well. Also, with recognizing that sometimes you just need space to think about something. Because, for example, last night I was feeling really frustrated.
Okay, please tell us. I would like to know more about it because I know what you're going through the last 2 days. I know a bit of it. Please tell me.
But so I've been learning Tibetan, and it's not necessarily easy learning another language. And so yesterday I was, trying to talk with Tibetan people and trying to like organize some things, but I just was not like getting what people were saying. And then I was talking with one Tibetan guy who he also has quite good English, and he was saying something, and I'm just like, I'm just not getting it. And then I felt so frustrated. So I'm like, what is happening? Why can't I get this? I'm like, I know these words, because then he translated it into English, and I was like, I know those words, but I just could not like string the meaning of the sentence together. And so last night I was feeling really frustrated, like. And then I was also thinking, this is probably what a 2-year-old feels like. When they're trying to, they don't have many words, but they're trying to like communicate something, and we have big emotions and these feelings inside, and then it's like they don't have enough words. So I think I'm sort of like a 2-year-old at the moment. Like I just, I can understand a bit and talk a bit. But I want to be able to do more, but it only will come with that familiarity, and I know all of that as well. So last night I just tried to do a little bit of meditation, and I just sort of sat and went, okay, what's frustrating you? Why do you feel frustrated? Is there anything you can do about it? There's not really much I can do about not understanding. I do have my daily practices of, you know, looking at vocabulary and listening to Tibetan, but it just will come with time. But sometimes it's frustrating.
Then, I'm just asking, like when you will really learn Tibetan, when you can start talking in Tibetan fluently, that will give you joy, right?
Yes,
Because
yes.
after you cross this frustration, you will reach a joy. Because now you're struggling,
Yeah.
and struggle is not all the time very soothing process or refreshing process. Not at all refreshing process. So a lot of negative emotions come into that process, right? But when you're over, then you really feel joyful about it, that you have learned or you have succeeded into some things. Okay.
And that's what I was also thinking about, the impermanent nature of this situation. Like, it's not like I'm always not going to be able to understand people when they talk Tibetan. It's just part of the process. And I guess like when you're learning anything new, there's a point where you sort of have a little bit of knowledge, and then you're sort of acquiring more knowledge. And I think there's sort of this plateau that happens at a certain point where maybe you just need a little bit of a break. And so we have a Losar break. But yeah, so sometimes you just have to give yourself the space to go, it's okay, I don't understand. It's not always going to be like this, because I continue to study and I continue to learn, so it's not like it's just going to fall out of my head and it's not going to stay there. No, with familiarity, things get easier, but it just takes time for that familiarity to happen.
So concentrating on impermanence helps sometimes. But for me, even I was focusing last few days, something was going on. I have encountered a certain situation, and a lot of feelings coming and going. A lot of old memories is coming to my mind suddenly, because I was not earlier I was not thinking about it, and suddenly something happened and it started coming, and then that was not very easy for me to handle my emotions, because I know I'm a very emotional person. I have lots of emotion, and earlier it was very, very difficult for me to handle all this. Now I'm trying to, and one thing I have noticed, like focusing on the impermanence nature, that really helps a lot. Like, it's not going to stay like this. It will change. It will change. So maybe you're feeling bad about certain things, but it will be gone very soon. It will be gone, and when you're focusing on that thing, it becomes so easy. The journey becomes easier by that time when you start focusing. Okay.
Yeah. I also have one thing that I was thinking as well. But it's also important to acknowledge when we are struggling and having difficulties, because it's also important to go, okay, yes, I am feeling frustrated. I am feeling this feeling, and that is okay. It's okay. We have these feelings. They come up. They come and they go. All these feelings come through like clouds. They talk about the clouds that come through. But I think it's important to, because sometimes I have noticed people who have studied Buddhism, they're like, oh no, but I can't say this, or because of this thing that I've learned, that thing. But it is important to acknowledge your own experience.
Yes. Acceptance. I realized over the last 2-3 days, I told you, lots of things coming to my mind, and I thought, I just realized one thing, that earlier there was a lack of acceptance in me. I was very harsh to myself, like, why are you behaving like this? I used to ask, like, you were learning, you were studying all those things, then why you are behaving this way? Now I think I'm learning to accept things as they are. Like, it's very difficult to perceive a thing how they are in reality, but anyway, according to our understanding, whatever way we are perceiving the thing, is better to accept, and accept gracefully. And when I started accepting things gracefully, I think I did a great favor to myself. I'm not doing favor to others, I'm doing favor to myself, because now I know the pain is not that intense. I'm feeling more relaxed and more happy. I think I'm a happier person now, because I started accepting. Accepting and acknowledgement is a big part of it. Because earlier I had that particular thing. It was very harsh, like, why are you behaving this way? Now I'm like, okay, it's coming,
Yeah.
and accept it, and then look at the impermanent side of the thing, impermanent side of this phenomena, and it will pass.
Yeah, and it's definitely, I think it's very important to do that. Because we are humans in this realm, in this world that we're living in. It's a crazy world that we're in. And so we do need to understand like where we are, where we've come from, and that also shapes like what we do and how we act and how we, the things that we have learned from when we were little and then as we grow. And actually this is something that was really important when I was working with the children, because children are so impressionable. Anything you do, they will do. They learn by observation. And this is also something that I've noticed adults do this as well. They learn by observation as well. So the way that you act, and people do notice those things as well. So sometimes if someone is having a hard time, you don't necessarily have to say anything. You can just sort of be there for them. Sometimes it's just enough to do that. But definitely just sort of go, okay, this is what these are the things that this is how I used to respond. Do I want to continue doing that? And one of the biggest steps is to even just recognize that something is happening, because we don't always sit with our mind and know what's happening in our mind. And then when you start to do that and start to recognize what's happening in your mind, then you can start to know your mind and know what's happening in there, and know sort of, there's a term in psychology called parent tapes. There's might be something that your parents have said when you were little, and then but it just keeps playing, and it's just something that comes up. But you don't necessarily have to keep listening to that as well. But if you don't know that it's there or recognize that it's there, then you can't really know that, oh, actually, I don't need to agree with that anymore.
No, you have to be really conscious for doing this thing. Most of the time I have seen when I'm doing something randomly, I'm not conscious at all. That's the reason I'm behaving in this way. And when I'm conscious about it's coming, this emotion is coming to my mind, I'm behaving in a certain way. When I'm conscious, my behavior and my emotions are already much controlled. But the consciousness is the main thing, I guess. It plays a big factor.
Yeah, the awareness. But that just comes with time and allowing yourself to become familiar with your mind as well. So, and then when you have been studying something and then you look back over time, and also like you were saying with the Tibetan, maybe 2 years in the future, I will look back at this time and go, oh wow, look at this, I've learned all of this and I can do this now. It's slowly over time, things will shift. If you make that conscious effort to put something into practice, and you just take what you can. Not too much. You've got to be realistic with what you can do, realistic with your capacity. So I know for myself, sometimes I think, oh, this is what I should be doing, but is it actually realistic? Is it achievable for me? Maybe for someone else they can do that, or but you definitely need to know yourself and know your limits as well. Because again, also with, for example, generosity, Buddhism, they talk a lot about generosity, but you also need to think about, you have to look after yourself and support yourself, so you give what you can, but you don't go crazy wild, like, I give everything away, because then you will experience suffering.
Because your mind is not prepared also at the same time.
Yeah.
I remember once my teacher shared a story of Milarepa, because someone was so inspired by Milarepa. He also gave up everything, and very soon he experienced suffering, and then he started screaming, oh, Milarepa is a beggar, and he made me beggar. So it's very obvious there that his mind was not ready for that. At the same time, I mean, with me, we have to be realistic, right? At the same time, otherwise there is no point of practicing even generosity, and we'll end up hurting ourselves.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, there's this saying we have in English. It's very like, you know, you've got to. How can you help others if you don't look after yourself? Like if you're sick in bed, you can't help anyone else, so you need to look after yourself too.
And I think by helping others also, again, because we are discussing about joy, helping others gives lots of joy. And remember, if it is very small, when you're thinking you're gonna do that, that even the thought gives you lots of joy that I have experienced in my life.
Yeah.
Even I'm thinking I'm gonna do that, and which is like I'm trying to make others happy, or I'm trying to do anything for others, that gives so much joy. And then then again it comes from your action again, like the action of your generosity or anything. So yeah, this kind of thought also the thing we are learning in Buddhism, and Buddhism talks about this loving kindness. All those thoughts even gives you lots of joy. That's what I feel. Okay, would you like to repeat it? I was just thinking.
Yeah, I'll do that.
Okay, I'll add some love sign, because love also gives me lots of joy when I feel that I am loved.
Yes.
I'm receiving love. That somehow gives me lots of joy. So I'm heading to love here. And thank you so much for coming here. And thank you so much for sharing your thoughts with us. And thank you again. Okay.